Hello class, this is a short video tutorial on how to get started with Lab 1 of Advanced GIS Spring 2024. So we call this lab Interpolation and Comparison of Rainfall Data in Utah and the Digital Elevation Model Visualizations. So you can get the lab information right here on Canvas under Assignments, also under the homepage, which is actually the different modules of the class. But anyways, so there's 3 different files to download. One is basically instructions, a Word doc, and then 2 CSV files, comma separated, kind of basically spreadsheet files. And so I've downloaded from the NOAA Climate Data Resources 21 and 22 annual rainfall data from rain gauges in Utah, as well as the average rainfall that those rain gauges get on an annual basis across Utah. And so you're going to do some interpolation to take those individual point data, rain gauges, and turn them into continuous data of rainfall across the state of Utah. So that'll be your interpretation or interpolation. You will then interpret that in comparison with another data set of professionals that have done this out of the PRISM group in Oregon State University. And then you'll also look at how rainfall varies with elevation by using some digital elevation model visualizations. Okay, so let's open up this lab just so you can see what's going on here. So did you ever wonder how we have these nice continuous maps of average temperature, precipitation, other data? Well, in truth, we don't always have that continuous data unless it is derived from some remote sensing data. So like surface temperatures, we can get that, or elevation. Usually, however, our weather data and many other types of data come from point locations, and then what is termed interpolation is used to infer values for areas between the points of data. A simple example of this is constructing a contour map based upon elevation point data. So there's many interpolation methods, and you'll explore a couple of these in this lab. So if you're interested in some of the interpolation methods, some information on that, there's a link here from Esri. And so what I did to collect those 2 point data sets that you'll use in this lab is I went to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's Global Summary of the Year data and U.S. Climate Normals data, and here's these 2 links to those here. So let's go to one of those and the other one. Okay. And so then I searched through there to get information about Utah. And so I wanted to show you how to do this because it's non-intuitive if you haven't done it before. I didn't make you required to do it for the lab, but you can feel free to go ahead and try to collect the data yourself for the lab instead of using the data sets I provided if you want to get that practice on your own. But the links are here if you ever need to do that for your own research. We'll also compare that with this PRISM data from Oregon State University. And in the lab, I ask you to go here, and basically I ask you to georeference this to the state of Utah and make a comparison with your data. And you can do that, and that's what I require you to do just to practice georeferencing. But you can also go to this PRISM's climate group and get a digital elevation, not digital elevation, but a gridded map of average precipitation for Utah that you can compare with as well. So that's available, okay, from PRISM. So you're going to use those 2 data sets, the climate normals and the global summary of the year data, to compare to PRISM, and you're going to do some interpolations I asked you to make 3 interpolations. You can choose amongst tin, inverse distance weighting, spline, Kriging, point interpolation, or natural neighbor. Your 3 choices. You could read through Prism's information to see what they do. They do some sort of elevation informed Kriging, I believe, but they have a whole bunch of documentation on that. And then you'll create a bunch of figures comparing your interpolations to the Prism model, quantitatively assessing how the 2021 and 2022 precipitation compared with the long-term averages in Utah, and then comparing different digital elevation model derivative products for the state of Utah. So make a slope map of Utah, hillshade, aspect map, turn that into things like a color hillshade or slope shade. And then compare rainfall to elevation. And then overall, you're going to quantify your analysis too. So I've got basically 4 figures, maybe even 5 that you have to create. Yes, 5, sorry. It's figure 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Sorry, I have a typo there. It should be figure 4 and figure 5 here. Okay, so to get the data that I provided, so the data that I provided are here. You can download these CSVs. So I'd right-click, save link as. Don't click on it. It'll just open up a data table. Save those, and then you'll be able to bring them into ArcGIS Pro. They have latitude and longitude information. You'll be able to plot the data on the map. To get those, you would have gone here. So to get the climate normals, which is the historical averages from 91 to 2020, you would go here and say, okay, I want precipitation. So you could type that in. Precipitation, you have to look through what you want, and you might not be getting it all the way you want initially, so you gotta hunt around. So like annual precipitation totals, precip normal, that's what I downloaded. And then where did I want it for? I wanted it for Utah. And then when did I want it is not important here because it's the climate normals. And so one thing that's interesting you'll see is that the data comes from a box. It's not the state of Utah. So you can see right away that you'll get some stations outside of Utah because it's a box, and Utah is not a box. You'll get some Arizona stations, maybe some Wyoming, etc. Then I went, okay, I was like select all. This takes a minute for whatever reason. Okay, finally select all has come up. And then what you don't want is a PDF. That's great if you want to read the data and understand things, you can get that as well. But you want a CSV so you can bring it into ArcGIS Pro or another GIS system. Then you click configure and add. You need to do configure and add because the quick add doesn't give you everything. Because you need the station location, yes, and the station name could be nice as well. And if you want the attributes, you can. You can also select whether you want the data of rainfall to come in a metric or standard, which would be English units. I kept it as English units for this exercise. We could always convert that on our own in raster calculator later. And then you click add cart. And then you can proceed to the cart. And you can see all the information here. Then all you do is you enter your email address and submit it. You have to enter it and confirm it. Then what happens is you get a confirmation that this request was put in, and like usually 10 minutes later, you'll get a download link to go ahead and download that. And so that's the reason I didn't have you do it on your own, because it's going to take everybody that extra 10 or 15 minutes to get the download. And yeah, that's just maybe a waste of time at this point. But you remember, you got to get good at practicing these things. So when you get to your projects, hunting and finding data is important. Okay, so that was to get the US climate normals. There's a different search for global summary of the year data. And so here we were like, okay, we want precipitation. And we want, again, Utah. And in this case, I was like, I want a specific date range. And so I was like, I want 2021, 01, 01 to 2021, 12/31. Okay, so that would give me information of all of these rain gauges that popped up, Cedar City, etc. And so there's 304 different rain gauges that popped up over that time span. And so then I would select all again, and that takes a minute to pop up, as we just learned. And then again, click CSV, configure and add. And we would want to include station location and name again, and add the order to the cart, proceed to cart, and then download. Actually, it's got both of my things in the cart because I didn't actually follow through and download the one before. So I got that for year 2021 and for year 2022. And so I want you to compare those 2 years. And then in the end of the lab, we'll go back to that here for a second. I've got a question for you to address. Okay, and the question down here at the end is, finally, for lab 1, consider that the 2021 to 2022 water year 22, was nearly a record dry year in Utah, and the 2023 water year was a very wet year in Utah. I ask you, why don't the climate data that you looked at in this lab for 2021 and 2022 annual precipitation data reflect these facts? Really what I'm asking you is, what does a water year mean, and how does that compare to the annual data? In this lab, you are looking at the annual data. It is not water year data. You'll see that water managers for states use what's called water year data, and that runs from basically the seasonal water year, right? In this region, in the western US, it's dry, generally in the summer and the fall, and so it becomes wet in the late fall and winter. And so the water year tends to start October 1st and runs through September. And so when we talk about whether or not we had a lot of water that year, when we're talking about water year, we're talking about October through September and not the annual time cycle. And so you're going to see that there's some interesting results there. And so I've got some links to some news articles in here about those water years. You experienced them probably if you were living here, and you'll see how do the annual averages compare with that climate data in this lab, which is not the same as water year. So you just kind of have to tell me that. Okay, so that's what I'm asking to do in this lab. I hope that this little instructional video is helpful in getting started, or kind of reminding you how things are going as you move forward. If we need to, I'll post some kind of instructions for how to manipulate some things in GIS, but I'm hoping that in this lab, you're going to recall some of the things that you did in Intro to GIS and work primarily on your own. But we'll see how it goes, and if so, I'll make some other helpful videos. So this is just to get us started.